Hello everyone, welcome to Astro Live on Instagram. Well, it is a big surprise, yes, because I make a huge mistake in this way. Okay, because, well, today I arranged one of our guest speaker, but for some reason, I totally mess up with time zone. Then when Tania contact me, I say, well, are you ready? They say, oh no, I was still teaching. So let's go with Tania. Let's welcome Tania. Hello. Yep. I mess up with the Thai Zoom. I'm really sorry. Hello. So nice to
Hi,
see
there I
you.
am. Do you hear me?
I can hear you very clearly.
Good.
Yeah. So I'm really sorry for mess up with Thai Zoom. Because I was like, oh my God.
Oh, no worries. It was funny because I was in front of my orrery, module from Janus, and I was seeing moon was at 29-degree Scorpio in the 12th house or on the threshold of the 12th house. So I thought there's something going on.
And guess what I was doing? I was working, I was teaching, hello, Wade. Oh, so interesting. Wade was with us. Okay, and we also
Okay.
hello. Okay, so yes, I was, to be honest, I have to apologize, but I have to kick into our subject first. I was teaching, and I really, because I supposed to finish, in UK time, it's a 2:30. And so I have to apologize to my students. Say, could I go earlier? Oh, I'm really sorry for everyone. But it's funny because I was so looking forward first. I was really looking forward to have Tania to join me because me and Tania, we are very good friends and we both Aquarius. And so every time when we chat, we just couldn't stop. Tania, let me
That's true.
introduce you. Tania is a traditional astrologer, also Harari astrologer, and her knowledge is immense. Every time when she's writing an article, you just want to sit down and worship. And they
Oh,
were just like, oh my God. And what's very interesting, since I started, I have to say that I'm not lying to you. I no need to lie. Since I started use the Instagram, I always want to bring some of my colleagues into Instagram to let them have their voice to be heard in the social media. We know there's a lot of astrology on the social media, but not everyone are so professional. There will be TikTok astrologer. I'm one of them from last couple of days. But there is
there
some professional
are also astrologers who don't like Instagram, right? So.
yeah, true. Yes. So Tanya, so I think we're going to talk about important event for last couple of days, right?
Yeah, I guess so. But we had to choose one topic. So
Yeah,
I am still, my mind is still focused on what has just recently happened in Libya.
yeah.
So I would like to talk about that flood, which caused so many fatalities. And
Hmm.
it is actually really interesting to look at those charts. So maybe that's interesting for the public too.
Yes. I think what happened in Libya is definitely a tragedy. More than 10,000 people die in that flood, and I think experts say that could be stopped. This event could be stopped. This should not happen, but it happened, and then they didn't give a warning, and they just opened the dam and let people have no way to run. So, in one way, I think in the mundane astrology, because I run a few chart and I realize in mundane astrology, if we have looked at the chart, even from the Aries Ingress or eclipse chart, we can always notice there is a dangers in this area, including Morocco and Libya. So Tanya, would you like to share with us what's your observation?
Well, you know, I'm writing a book on declination and latitude, so I found it really interesting to look at the declination cycle of this particular event. But maybe we just start with the lunation chart, which is, you know, the easiest to look at, which is, you know, the strategy that just preceded the main event. Can you pull this chart up, maybe, so we can show people?
Okay, it's the chart you sent to me, right?
Yes, it's the full moon chart, which was the last lunation before the event.
I only received one chart. Is the one you just sent to me? Did you send?
No, I sent you the PDF, right? Remember?
Okay, let me check if I have a PDF from you.
While you're searching, I can talk. Yeah. I sent you a few days ago. Remember the PDF? There were 3 or 4 slides. 3, I think.
Let me check.
No worries. It's a PowerPoint presentation. Remember?
Okay. Yeah.
So anyway, we had the full moon. Now Rod will pull up the chart. Just on the 31st of August. And do you find the chart?
Yeah, I found it. I found the chart. Yes.
Good. I wait.
Okay.
There should be a slide also with a satellite photo on the town of Durna.
Yeah. Okay. Give me 1 minute.
Yep. No problems. So I would like to discuss the lunation chart, and then we will discuss the event chart, and yeah, maybe you can even look at the you know, Jupiter, Saturn, Jupiter conjunction, which is also very indicative for this town, which has basically been cancelled.
Here we are. I try to move it away and make everyone can see the presentation. Here we are. So, Tania.
Okay, Rod, as the other time we tried all this, I can't see anything, so I just look at my chart here on my PC, right?
Sure.
Okay, we have the slide of Saturn and the satellite photo. Are you showing those?
Yes, I'm showing it.
So what we see on the right hand on the satellite photo is the big wadi, the big yeah, it was actually a dried riverbank, right? And if you look at it, it comes just from the mountains and finishes like an arrow on the town of Durna, right? Yeah. So we know that this wadi has been dry for a lot of time, but now there was heavy rain and stuff, and well, we know what happened. And in this riverbed, there were actually 2 dams. Very old dams from the 50s, and they were built in not even stone. It is like the earth stones. You know, the old thing that they did many years ago. There was no control. There was no quality check, and actually, yeah, they had it coming. There had been protests much before or long before the event happened, but you know, there was a war or many wars, no money, no attention, and the dams got damaged during the hurricane, or actually better the Medicane, right? The Mediterranean hurricane. Now we have a new word. There haven't been Medicanes in the past. This was something that didn't exist in the Mediterranean area. We didn't know about hurricanes. Who does remember hurricane? Nobody. But now it's got a thing. So now we have a proper name for it: Mediterranean hurricane or Medicane. So we had this huge Medicane. There was one in Milan this year, and this one started in Greece, Bulgaria, and then went down to Libya, where it broke those 2 dams. So if we just look at the full moon chart that you have pulled up here.
Yes.
So we see that the ascendant has just changed into Leo, and we have a benefic actually close to the ascendant.
Yeah.
And but what I see, the first thing that I see is where's the moon, and the moon. What is the moon close to, or with what other planet the moon is? And we see that there is actually a a Saturn-Moon conjunction. Now, this is interesting for traditional astrologers, you know, and modern, but what does actually Saturn mean? So Saturn, well, it's a malefic, okay, but in this case, he is an actual malefic because he is in a sign where he has no dignities, right? And he's in the 8th house, as we can see in the lunation. Yep. So this makes me immediately think, okay, there's something not right. Besides, we know that the moon represents people, so we have Saturn close to the moon, which is certainly, you know, afflicting the physical body of people. But what I'm interested in to look at is that Saturn is a traditional ruler of constructions, of buildings, all kind of buildings, right? And you would have a very sound building, a very good foundation, if the planet has dignities. Now, this is this chart is not the foundation chart of the dams, but it is descriptive of what happened in this particular situation. So we had this dam, and this dam got just flooded. It broke. The Saturn could not hold, or the dam couldn't hold the water anymore, right? Yep. And I think that there is no better description as Saturn in Pisces. So Saturn usually gives structure, but in Pisces there is actually nothing that can be held. There is an overflooding. There is no control of the structure. Yeah. So this is exactly what happened. Because if it was just for the wind, it would probably have caused damage. If it was just for rain, then it might have caused trouble. But it was the pressure of this water in that dam, in that huge dig that they had built, that, you know, made, there were huge water masses, but the pressure that came from above, the flooding water that came in the body, that put pressure on the other dam, and both of them went down the mountains. This obviously increased incredibly the amount of damage that it could have, that just alone water or wind could have possibly caused. And we see it in the photo that the body points directly to the city, or even to the center of Derna. So this was something that, it's not, they had it coming. You know, this really points to an arrow, what we have seen there. And we also see that the two benefics in the chart, we have Jupiter in the whole sign house, in the 10th whole sign house, which you would think, well, that's a good thing. And you would also say that Venus on the ascendant, huge, lovely. That's good, good luck. Problem is, Venus on the ascendant is, well, she doesn't look at her dispositor, the sun. So they are in aversion, so there is no real benefit of it. And Jupiter, he usually thought about as, or he's considered as a benefic, but he's also a magnifier, right? So if we have Saturn, if we have Jupiter in the 10th house, everything is magnified. The event gets just bigger, right? But this chart alone would not really, well, you wouldn't necessarily think about a huge flood, because huge floods are usually associated with a lunar phase, with a full moon, or when the moon is at her perigee. Right. So, well, we have this is a lunation chart. If we bring up the other chart, Rod, we see the moment when the flood reached Derna, or Derna it's called, right?
Okay. Is another next slice, right?
Yes, the next slide.
Okay, yes, I have it now.
There are two charts, right? The flood reaches Derna and the full moon. So now I'm interested. We have already, let's say, mentioned the lunation. Now I would like to look at the flood moment. the time is taken from NBC News, so it's an official time. It is. I would just use it as an indication, right? It's. I wouldn't stick to the right moment, but it's just to have an idea. And what I'm interested is we see that we have again Leo rising, right? And we have again Venus on the ascendant, and she squares Jupiter. And yeah, it's a repetition actually of the lunation chart, what we have already seen just for the house positions. But what I noticed here is actually the moon is waning. It's in her last phase before the new moon, which is not really alone. It's not just indicative of a flood. We would just rather assume a flood is indicated by a full moon, right? Or when the moon is at her perigee, which is not the case either here in this particular moment. Right? But what is interesting and what we can't see in the chart, so we always have to pull up our tables with all our ephemeris, is that the moon has entered her a period that is called the major lunistis, right? This is a technique that I haven't really found anywhere. It's a very old technique, or knowledge more than a technique. And so I have to explain a little how it works. We know that the moon crosses all the signs in a month, and that she, goes from the lowest to the highest declination in 1 month, right? So if we see it, if we look at graphical ephemeris, we see just a wave, just very irregular wave, that the moon comes from her lowest to her highest declination every month. A very a boring line, if you want so. But this is only true if you look at on a monthly base. You have to consider that the moon has many cycles, and the one that I'm interested in, that I am studying, is the lunation cycle. That is, it's an 18.6 years long cycle, and this cycle is obviously associated with the lunar nodes. No, we know that the nodes have a revolution of 18.6 years. But what happens besides the nodes is that the moon reaches her maximum declination, maximum possible declination of 28 point something degrees only every 18 years. And then on a monthly base. So if you look now at your ephemeris or your mobile application and run through the months or through the days, you see that the moon, starting from this precise month, will reach at 28 plus degrees. And the first time that happened was exactly on the day of the flood in Libya.
Wow.
So she reached her absolute peak, the 28 mark, I mean, not the minute. The 28 mark on exactly that day. Now, the highest declination will be reached for about 2 years, not the same minute. The same degree, 28 point something. Then the minute can change. She will reach her highest possible declination next year, but starting from now, from this month, she will be on the high on the top of this declination.
I'm showing it now. I'm showing the declination chart now.
Yes, on the declination circle. So, and after 9.2 years, she will come down to her lowest declination, which is only 18 degrees. 0.6. So you will see that for several months, the moon will not reach any further than the 18 degrees. She will stick there. And it is called a lunar standstill period for the, let's say lunar standstill, because she will stay at that high degree for several years. When we talk about the major lunistis, the 28 degrees cycle, and the lowest, the 18 degree cycle. But she does this also on a monthly basis. If you run through your mobile phone and you have an application, I use Visor, for example, you can scroll minute by minute, day by day, and so on. You can see that the moon reaches her highest relative declination every month, and then she stays there for about 2 days. The latitude will change, longitude will change, declination will remain for about 2 days. That's the standstill period. So she has this on a minor level, which is monthly, and then she has this on the major level, which is the 16.6, 18.6 year cycle. I hope I was I made this actually understandable.
Really spot on, because when I show in the graphic to our audience, they will see the peak of the declination of the lunar declination is really between 2023 to 2024. They can really see the wave that going up. So
absolutely.
Okay, so wow, do you want to go back to another chart?
No, I just want to add something more.
Cool.
So I already said that the moon reached her highest possible period just on the day. The first time she entered the 28th degree period was on the day of the flood. At that day, she was also at a very high latitude, 5.01, if I'm not mistaken, at the moment the flood came in. So she was in a very extreme situation that doesn't happen every day. So this we have to consider when we talk about the devastation that it caused. But the moon was not alone in being at her bendings or at her farthest latitude. It was also Jupiter, and the Jupiter is at his southern bending at the moment. Okay. What else should I say about this chart? Let me see. Maybe we can also look at, if you look at the lunation chart, there's some very particular detail that I want to share.
Okay.
So we see that in the lunation chart from August 31st, we see that this Saturn is at 3 degrees Pisces, right?
Yes.
Now, if you know what an antishar is, then you can see this is a kind of mirror point, right? Okay. So if we consider Saturn, then his mirror point is actually exactly the IC.
Okay.
The IC in this chart is at 27 Libra, and which is a mirror point of 3 degrees Pisces. And this is in the lunation chart. But the same actually happens, or nearly, in the moment of the flood. Remember, this is the chart. We have to check the time, the minute. But in the time indicated by NBC, we have Saturn at 2 degrees Pisces, and the IC is at 29. Also, an aspect by Antisha. Okay. This means we can consider the Antisha as a conjunction, right? So we would see the IC is conjunct Saturn, both in both lunation, in the event chart and in the lunation, which is, I think, a pretty strong indication of what actually happened. Also interesting that in both charts, again, we have the IC at the very last degrees. In the lunation chart, it's at 27 Libra, and it's moving into Pisces. Into Scorpio. Yeah. And the same 29 like Libra, and it is moving, we want to say so, into Scorpio, right? So we see that the IC is on the threshold, how we call it. And actually, the event was caused by a hurricane, or this famous Medicane, which brought the wind and the water. And at the end, this was the reason why the two dams cracked. Just interesting how this, is actually shown in the charts. Cool. Yeah. What else do we have here? I have also looked at the ingress chart in Virgo.
Yeah.
There we don't have a chart here right now, I suppose, Rod.
No.
I have just looked at shortly before
Yeah.
we started. And well, in the ingress chart in Virgo, obviously Saturn is in opposition to the Sun in Virgo, right?
Yeah.
The Sun, obviously, ingress chart in Virgo, Sun is at 0 degrees Virgo, and the Sun is at 4 Pisces, which makes a pretty tight conjunction, considering. And yeah, what to say? It's indicative for what happened. So, do you have other things that you have spotted, Rod? Do you want to add something here?
Things is pretty. I mean, when we look at when I look at that chart, my first question is, well, that Jupiter and the Venus was on the angle, but how could that tragedy is happen? So we have to go through the much detail to examine them. And also, I'm always fascinated by your work about declination, because I mean, not many astrologers working with declination, but they are indeed so important because they indicate.
I have heard traditional astrologers blaming me. Oh, but declination is not traditional. Well, I have a book that is thick like that, and there is all full of actually sources. It was used. Just think or consider that declination. I'm talking about this 18.6 year cycle. This has already been engraved in stone in Stonehenge. It's there.
Yeah.
And not only Stonehenge, there are other megalithic sites where the lunar declination is as important as the solar declination. Yeah. Solar declination, you know, it's the equinoxes and the solstices, right? Which describes how you know how much into the north the sun can be, and the same is true for the lunestices, which is much less used or looked at or considered. It has been forgotten basically, but it is there. And there are many megalithic sites where we can find this kind of double cross, right? For the equinoxes and solstices on the one hand, and for we call it the lunestices on the other hand, which indicates when the moon, because the moon obviously when she reaches 28 degrees of declination, she goes very much into the north, and when she reaches 18 degrees, there is a total different position in the sky that she reaches. So this was closely observed and obviously necessary for the prediction of eclipses.
But Tania, I have to stop you. I have an interesting question for you. One of our audience, Kenan, is our friend, asked, when will we be able to read Tania's new declination book?
Look, it's really huge. I'm doing everything by my own, all the graphs, all the tables, and there are basically hundreds of tables. And it's taking me a little. It's ready. I have finished writing it, but now I'm editing it. Cool. So wish me luck. That it goes smoothly on. It's an embarrassing question. I know. It will be out soon.
But do you have some article related to declination on your website?
I have written a lot of posts on that just also recently on my Instagram and Facebook, on my personal site, on my professional website, which is Tania Daniels, Orrery Astrologer, and Instagram. There's a lot, and my website, well, there are lots of articles, but I haven't written long articles on declination because it's all not from my book, so I won't, give it away. Sorry.
No, don't worry. This is necessary.
By the way, I will do a talk. I will be giving a talk on declination and the lunestices at the Spanish International Spanish-speaking conference, which is happening by the end of November. Yeah. But I will speak in Spanish, so I don't think it will be translated.
Well, if you are not going, we will definitely going to invite you we are going to invite you to come to give a talk about it. I always fascinated about your work. And Tanya, I'm so sorry for messing up time today, and I know you have to do some parents' duty, mother's duty. So let me remind you, time is up. And I'm really sorry, but thank you for bringing us this fascinating observation and open our eye to the declination, which is also very important. I agree, because I think if you go to study, like if you listen Christine Skinner's, she is also very focused on declination and talking about declination with the world event. And that is so fascinating. So it's not only mundane or financial astrologer. And now Tanya tell us the ancient astrologer in traditional way also check it.
I want to add something. Maybe if people are interested in those declination cycles, yes, they can check what happened at the previous cycle. And if we look back, now we had this horrible earthquake in Morocco, just followed by the flood in Libya, yeah, and it happened just at the beginning of this new declination peak, right?
Yeah.
But if you look 18.6 years back and see what happened then we see there was the huge tsunami in Indonesia,
yes,
and the flooding of Banda Aceh.
Yes.
And also in the same peak period, which is, as I told you, about 3.5 years long, we had Hurricane Catherine.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that is
the flood, the tsunami happened just at the beginning of the peak period. It was the 25th of December 2004. Yes. I will always remember. And the hurricane happened at the end of the peak period, which was by 2006. So you can just draw the ephemeris and the graphic ephemeris and see where it happened.
Thank you.
It's all in my book. And you can also look with earthquakes. We have all earthquakes, or every year there are earthquakes, but the big ones seem to happen more often during those peak periods, right?
Yeah.
Well, and also, when things come together, when we have a full moon, when we have the moon at the perigee, and we have a high declination, these three things, when they come together, we have devastation. And this was actually the case in Banda Aceh. We had the tsunami happened on a full moon, on the perigee, the day of the perigee, and at the peak of the declination. So everything came together.
Southeast Asia was devastated.
Yes.
The huge tsunami we never seen before.
Horrible. I totally remember all those images. So it will always stick into my mind. Yeah. So, but hopefully, it won't happen again in this way. But it is interesting to see that this flood happened just the very day the moon entered this 28 degree peak.
Okay.
Well. Okay, so I think we have to finish.
Thank you, Tania. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rod.
Thanks,
everybody who listened. And if you have questions, just drop me a mail. Okay?
Yeah. So I will post Tania's website, and wish you good luck with your book. And can I say we are quite impatient for your new book. So we are really looking forward of it. Thank you, Tania. And we'll definitely going to try to see you next time. And next time I will try to remember on time.
Okay. So see you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, everybody.